game, and when you turn it over, you're in real trouble, which we were tonight, and that certainly skews your defensive field goal percentage. But the bottom line is, we had been better taking care of the ball, we've been better defensively, and tonight we definitely took a step back and they took advantage of it. And when you're not getting that defensive connectivity, you're not getting the movement that you have to have on offense either. And we didn't have that. We had it early, we didn't have it enough. We tried a lot of different things, zone and man, and we just did not cut hard enough. We said one of the big point of emphasis tonight was going to be screening. Whether it was man or zone, we didn't do a good enough job with our screening by any stretch. But we made mistakes defensively that we haven't been making. Leaving shooters, gambling, trying to make plays that weren't there. And that connectivity started with the communication. And it just wasn't there. And when it's not there, we're certainly not good enough. Our margin for error is certainly not there to be able to overcome it if we're not locked in to where we've got to be on the defensive end. And I think more than anything, that's what hurt us.
Questions?
Tom Anthony said he even sensed in warm-ups that guys were lethargic, including himself. He didn't feel focus was there. Did you pick up on that at all?
Well, I think, no, not as much, but I mean, that's good. If he pointed the finger and he also pointed himself, then that's a good sign of leadership, because I think that the way it's set up, with senior days, that changes things, right? But no, I think, it's emotional for senior night, so that's gonna play into it. Tyree, Jordan, those guys are a little emotional with it, but we've had really good practices. I don't know, we got off to a good start. We just didn't stay with it as much. But maybe it's just the fact of the matter is, if he said it, he's probably right. But the bottom line is, it was a different warm-up because of the time being spent out on the court. And that's a tough deal. Yeah, I've never had senior night in my life. I've been being in this league till after the game. But it's a league rule, so that's when we do it. But for 18 years, we did it after the game, for those very reasons. But we did whatever we started out with, we didn't stay with, but again, it moved over to the defensive end more than anything else.
And I'm sorry, as a quick follow-up, is it discouraging that at this stage of the season to still be committing this many turnovers? And
disappointing, but we're not a consistent team, and we haven't been all year. So inconsistency has been the number one weakness of our team all year, and we've been playing better. But the defense and the making the simple passes are a big part of that. And there wasn't anybody on our team tonight that was a great ball mover, cutter, let's really operate. But there also wasn't anybody on our team tonight that took the reins defensively like we had been. So in that sense, it's disappointing, but it's part of our immaturity and it's part of our inconsistency.
Coach, you almost literally played perfect the first 5 minutes, 7 for 7, and I think you only had a missed free throw in that entire. What changed after that? They seemed to be much more discombobulated after that, and I'm not sure if when you called a timeout, but was there anything that you saw specifically that they got away from?
Well, yeah, we stopped cutting as much as we need to cut, whether it was man or zone, right? And cutting, getting the ball into the middle of the zone. Like I said a bit ago, the screening was going to be a huge part tonight. Screening man or zone, so we create some help situations and make the next kick. But we probably, for a little stretch there, started to think about our own offense. Really, then we kept thinking about how much it needed to move. And that's the immaturity of this team that comes at times when we get a lead. And we've got to grow through that. That's part of building the program. It's part of getting the culture right, the way we have to have it here. Because that's the maturity part. It's not about the offense. It's about how much you continue to put stops together defensively, how well you rebound the ball. When we were in transition, we were good, right? We were really good. But there were too many times we weren't in transition, and then we became stagnant. We've got to continue to grow out of waiting for the ball, right? We're a cutting, moving team. Penetration, kick, and we struggled with that. We struggled with that tonight. So it didn't matter for a bit what we called. We weren't getting enough movement. And but again, all that being said, it comes down to an aggressiveness on both ends of the court and a connectedness on both ends of the court that starts on the defensive end.
Coach, Anthony talked about their zone and them packing it in and saying it was hard because they weren't
prepared for it. I'm guessing that wasn't the first time you'd seen that
That
zone.
they were or weren't prepared.
He said they weren't.
Our guys?
Yeah, Anthony said they
We
weren't
spent the
prepared.
majority of the time on the zone the last 2 days because we wanted to move it with screens. And we knew that they would go to the 3-2 or to the 1-3-1. But it is packed in from the top. That's why we got to get the cuts and drives off of the slots and more movement out of the corners. But again, there wasn't one guy on the team that I would look to and say, okay, they kept cutting and getting us great movement tonight. But it's a top-heavy zone, right? It's a top-heavy zone. That's why in a 3-2, that's why screening, okay, and then flashing in behind it, from the wing area, or from the wing or corner area, is what we need to do. And sometimes we showed him at halftime with it. There are a couple of cuts that, like, if Nike made 50-pound shoes, a couple guys had them on. And I'm not going to go anywhere. It's just we can't play like that. So again, it's flash to the ball, right? Flash to the ball, screen the zone, make the next pass, and our immaturity came out in that. But bottom line is, like I keep saying, if you're getting stops, we're getting runs, we're getting runouts, and we're getting out and we're going, and we weren't getting enough stops. And because we weren't getting those baskets, that lack of cohesiveness on the defensive end calls.
Talk about not being a consistent team. Are you surprised to go from 99 points the last game to 54?
Not when you don't move without the ball. No, not really. No, not when you don't move as well, and when you the ball's got to move, right? The ball's got to move. Tonight we moved into a little bit. Let's wait for the ball, right? Rather than cut and make something happen. But our screening was atrocious, and our screening and our cutting was atrocious. And no matter what we were in, and there's really no reason for it. But we got to go back and look at the film because we can't play that way.
2 more questions?
Was that 10-0 run in the second half when you felt the game started to turn towards?
I don't know. I don't have it down in my head that way. I never think Robin, so I don't think like that. I mean, we had our timeouts. We had a way to get back into the game, but we just weren't aggressive. Now they did drop their head a lot earlier tonight, and that was all the way across the board. There's not one guy, which I'm disappointed to say, that I look back at and said, okay, they're locked into this. All right, they have the belief, and that's disappointing, and just that's disappointing at this point. But we've got to continue to grow leadership here, and we just have to. Leadership does not happen through a course of a couple of good wins or through the course of adversity. It happens because of those things. It happens over a period of time, and we're just not there yet.
Tom, when you recruited Anthony here, it obviously elevated expectations, not just in the big picture, but specifically for this year and potentially a tournament team. As the reality of the season sort of settled in, have you viewed this in any way as sort of a wasted opportunity?
No, I don't look at it like that. I knew we had 10 new players. See, I'm here every day, and I know what we have, and I know what we're working with in the sense of what we have to build. So, and when you have 10 new players, you're not quite sure what it's going to be, and at all. And if I look back at this, I think I said this the other day, but if I look back and say, okay, what surprises me about this year right now, it would be our lack of shooting, right? With as much time as we spent on it, really being able to knock down shots. But I don't look at anything as a wasted year. I mean, we got guys getting better. We just had a good stretch, over a 2-week where we were 3 out of 4 there and could have easily been 4 out of 4. And we took a step back tonight. But again, it's all year long, it's been when our defense is not where it needs to be, or when our cutting and our movement is not where it needs to be offensively. Okay, we can still win if we're not making threes, but we cannot win if we're not guarding well and if we're not moving well without that ball because we're not big. So all of a sudden, we had 18% offensive rebound rate against Florida the first time, which is the worst of the year, and we get 7 offensive boards tonight. All right, we're not nearly as aggressive and gritty in those situations as we need to be, as we will be moving forward. But it's all part of learning what you have, and so I don't choose to look at it in any type of negative way. I choose to look at it and, okay, this is the inconsistency. This is we got to continue to work on. This is what we're trying to build. This is where it's got to go. And then you make those decisions as you go along.